It's all about frequency. So suddenly, when people have said to me over the years, well, whether you say these non-human entities manipulating human society, where are they then? Why can't we see them? Well, the answer is you can hardly see anything, mate, because they operate outside, not far outside, actually, of human perception. And so what they're doing with these rituals is they're interacting with these entities they perceive as their gods. I've talked to people who've taken part in these rituals who have described how these entities, often reptilian, but not always in nature, but absolutely non-human, have appeared in these rituals. Because of the energetic
match
environment that has been created by the ritual. The Satanists of today, like the ancients, they do these rituals in the same place over and over and over again. And what this does is thin out the vibrational frequency difference between the two dimensions. It makes it easier to slip into this one, albeit briefly.
Sure. I mean, even when you look at ancient places in the world, they're stacked on top of each other, positive or negative, probably then. Like churches you go to ancient Egypt or you go to different places on the planet and they build on top of each other, like as if that location matters.
Back in the 1990s, I was invited by the guy who was producing it to go to Canterbury Cathedral in England, a major British cathedral, which goes way, 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 way back. It's because he was putting on something called a passion play. It's basically the Jesus story, but it's played out in cathedrals. After the cathedral closed to visitors, before the production started, I had free reign of the place and I was walking around. And what they were doing at that time is they were excavating. They were doing repairs and what have you, and they were excavating deep in the cathedral under the floor. And what they found was a pagan site on that site.
Yeah.
And what happened during the replacement of the pagan belief system to the Christian one? Well, it's one of two things. Some people put their churches and their cathedrals on these pagan sites because they wanted to suppress the pagan energy. And others did it, the ones in the know, they put it on these sites because they knew they were energetic vortex sites.
For sure.
And what these powerful vortexes do is, as they spin, they are basically thinning out and bringing together different dimensions. This one and one right next to it they call the Astral. They're kind of they're spinning them into a point where they don't quite fuse, but you know what I mean. And that's why they do these satanic rituals at these vortex points.
Do you think that we then are here to evolve? Because the question would be then, if you do, maybe we're enough. Maybe our consciousness and our potential that is somewhat largely untapped, maybe there's nothing to do. Maybe there's nothing to do. But if we are here to evolve, if we are here to get off planet, to be able to repopulate somewhere else, what happens? I mean, I've spoken to Randall Carlson and other people who talk about how many things are coming at this planet from asteroids to destroy us. Like, the inevitability of destruction is there. So then how do we evolve? What is that next step? Because I think this stuff is frightening. I think consciousness is the pure potentiality, and that when you tap into a system, you are now limited by only the system, which doesn't tap into the field of potentiality. So I'm on board with that. But what is the next step? How do we evolve as humans if that is our goal? Where do we go? What do we do? What do we become?
Well, we've already gone into levels that the mainstream alternative media doesn't deal with very much. But let's now go into levels it doesn't deal with at all. The levels where the answers lie, as well as the true scale of human control. Are we here to evolve? No, it's a trap. Let's look at what the I is. What we're led to believe and encouraged to believe is that the human body and the labels of the human body is the I. This is who I am. No, it's what you're experiencing. What you are is consciousness, the having that experience.
Yeah.
But why are you having the experience? Look around the world. Anyone think that humans are evolving? Really? Some are, because they've become conscious beyond the program. But most people are still stuck in the program. Look through known human history and see the constant common themes that never change.
Right.
Like the vast majority look to the minority authority to tell them what to do and tell
Like
them
an
what
ancient
to
Rome, the mob, it's
same, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It may have a different historical setting, and it may have different rhetoric, but it's the same story. And actually, that goes on even when we leave this realm, as I'll come to. So my approach, right all the way through this 35 years, has been to know that there's one thing that is unquestionable, and that is whatever we think we know at any point, there's always more to know. So you're constantly asking, okay, I think I get this. So what don't I know? And what don't I know? And what don't I know? And what that does is drive you deeper and deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole, instead of walking around the outer rim of the rabbit hole and calling it sussing the conspiracy. Not even started. Where that's taken me, it took me from around the mid 1990s, to an understanding, and this is all through research and experience that I had, and people I met, and books that I read, yes, and documents that I saw, multiple sources pointing in the same direction. We have this global cult, a global network of secret societies that is driving the direction of human society way beyond presidents and prime ministers.
Sure. Well, when you mentioned presidents and the Bushes, the Skull and Bones and different secret societies have been, spoken about for some time now.
Yeah, but there is a whole web of them which interconnect. And I've talked about this in many interviews and in great detail in the books. What I started to realize as I was researching this in the early 1990s, now I'm seeing bombshell information, new revelation, right? Okay, and I'm thinking I was writing about that in about 1995. It's a lot of this has long been researched and is now being regurgitated and called the latest revelation. And what that's doing, of course, is holding the line in this barricade instead of moving on. I was looking at the way that this global cult worked, but then I started to realize that these famous, now billionaire people who were these cultists who were running this cult, although the real people in control are always in the shadows, they were taking part in satanic ritual and human sacrifice ritual. And I came across all this in detail in the 1990s, met lots of people that had taken part in them, often against their will.
Wow.
And so the question then was, well, what are they doing sacrifice rituals for?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the pennies start to drop and the dots start to connect. You go back to the ancient world and you see that they were doing sacrifice rituals all over the planet and the different cultures to the gods. And then there came a point where humans, most of them anyway, reached a point of maturity where they weren't having that anymore. So it went underground and into secrecy, what we now call Satanism. You then start to realize that these gods actually exist. They're not gods at all, bunch of prats, but they're perceived as gods by these people who worship them. Who are these gods? And you realize that the gods, quote, that these people today, these cultists today, many famous people, are doing these rituals to, these sacrificial rituals to, are also the same gods that the ancients were doing rituals to. So who are these gods? And when you really want to get to the bottom of what's going on, you have to research so many different subjects. It's no good researching the history of the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. You've got to go much deeper into the nature of reality itself. A big thing that I think every child should be taught at the first moment they're able to grasp it is that when you look through your eyes, you're into the space that you appear to be looking at, you're not seeing everything in that space. You're only seeing a tiny, tiny band of frequency called visible light. And how tiny is that? If you take the electromagnetic spectrum, which is basically human reality, experience reality, according to mainstream science, that is only 0.005% of what exists in the universe in terms of energy in all its forms. And visible light is a fraction of the 0.005%. So first of all, why I say children need to know that at the earliest age possible is because that changes everything. Now you can understand that there are whole worlds, realities that are happening in the same space that you are operating in, but in different frequency bands so that you are not affected by them and you cannot see them. You are affected when those frequency bands are very, very close and can interact. But the higher frequency bands, well, they're way beyond human perception. Immediately, you start to understand how people can see a craft or an entity appear out of nowhere and disappear into nowhere. Because they've not appeared out of nowhere and disappeared into nowhere so that people in 5 sense reality go, that's ridiculous, that's impossible. They've entered visible light, and to you they have appeared out of nowhere, and they've left visible light, and to you they've disappeared into nowhere. It's all about frequency. So suddenly, when people have said to me over the years, well, you say these non-human entities manipulating human society, where are they then? Why can't we see them? Well, the answer is you can hardly see anything, mate, because they operate outside, not far outside, actually, of human perception. And so what they're doing with these rituals is they're interacting with these entities they perceive as their gods. I've talked to people who've taken part in these rituals who have described how these entities, often reptilian, but not always in nature, but absolutely non-human, have appeared in these rituals. Because of the energetic
match
environment that has been created by the ritual. The Satanists of today, like the ancients, they do these rituals in the same place over and over and over again. And what this does is thin out the vibrational frequency difference between the two dimensions. It makes it easier to slip into this one, albeit briefly.
Sure. I mean, even when you look at ancient places in the world, they're stacked on top of each other, positive or negative, probably then. Like churches you go to ancient Egypt or you go to different places on the planet and they build on top of each other, like as if that location matters.
Back in the 1990s, I was invited by the guy who was producing it to go to Canterbury Cathedral in England, a major British cathedral, which goes way, 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 way back. It's because he was putting on something called a passion play. It's basically the Jesus story, but it's played out in cathedrals. After the cathedral closed to visitors, before the production started, I had free reign of the place, and I was walking around. And what they were doing at that time is they were excavating. They were doing repairs and what have you, and they were excavating deep in the cathedral under the floor. And what they found was a pagan site on that site
Yeah.
And what happened during the replacement of the pagan belief system to the Christian one? Well, it's one of two things. Some people put their churches and their cathedrals on these pagan sites because they wanted to suppress the pagan energy. And others did it, the ones in the know, they put it on these sites because they knew they were energetic vortex sites.
For sure.
And what these powerful vortexes do is, as they spin, they are basically thinning out and bringing together different dimensions. This one and one right next to it they call the astral. They're kind of they're spinning them into to a point where they don't quite fuse, but you know what I mean. And that's why they do these satanic rituals at these vortex points. And for this reason, churches and cathedrals across the world are built on these points.
Wow.
And this is the reason that Satanists do so much of their horrific ritual in relation to churchyards and churches and stuff. It's because
what are these rituals? I'm curious what you've heard firsthand from people.
Right. Well, this will explain a lot. One of the things that I realized just after the turn of the millennium is that this reality is actually a simulation. It's a incredibly advanced version of a virtual reality game. And I
got that download myself in an experience. I was sort of shown in a psilocybin experience that, like, I went so far away that the way I had to come back, the first construct that I had to agree to was the mind. That was the matrix.
Yeah.
And I had to buy in. I had to forget and I had to buy in.
That is something I go into in the reveal. Some detail, quoting people who've had the experience that you talk about, and other experiences relating to that. So I realize this is a simulation, and I can talk about how it works. It's very simple to explain how it works.
Let's finish up with that, because I think the real ending is like, what do you do? So I'd love for you at the end to explain what the matrix is and how we do it. So, but after.
Yeah, the question was, why the simulation? Why would they create a simulation to hoodwink our perception of the very reality we're experiencing? Why would they do that? What's the point? And this relates to what I've just been saying about the rituals and why they do them. It's the same thing. There's two types of consciousness, if you like, projection or experience that leaves the body. There's what they call near-death experiences, where the body dies and you find yourself in another reality. And there's, with the body still alive, the ability to project your consciousness into this astral dimension that interpenetrates this one, like radio stations and TV stations. One of the people that popularized these out-of-body experiences was a guy called Robert Monroe. And he became very skilled at it. And to such an extent that the CIA got interested and put together a group of people that could project their consciousness in this way into the astral and perceive and experience the astral as a result. And along with Monroe, and they called it the Gateway Process or the Gateway Project.
Is this remote viewing? Is this some of this the remote viewing stuff that the CIA used?
It's beyond remote viewing, actually. And interestingly, what they found was they developed this, Monroe developed this concept of what he called hemisync, or hemisphere of the brain synchronization. That if you could synchronize the two hemispheres of the brain into a coherent frequency, then it was possible to project your consciousness out into the astral. Well, first of all, in this Gateway Project, and this has come from military sources that were involved in it, They saw so many reptilian entities in the astral, these people taking part in this Gateway project, that they gave them the name of the alligators in the project. Have you seen any alligators? And the other thing that Robert Monroe said he learned in his astral travels was that there are entities in the astral which are feeding off low vibrational human emotion and mental energy frequencies. It's long been known by mainstream science that every time we feel an emotion or have a thought, we generate and project a frequency which relates to the nature of the thought or the emotion.
Sure.
And these entities, by their very nature, are in a very low vibrational state and have no interest whatsoever in joy and happiness and peace and love, because those frequencies are high frequencies and they can't absorb them. Because what he learned, and I've by the time I read his stuff, I'd got this from many other sources before, confirmation, is that these entities are feeding off as an energetic sustenance source human low vibrational emotion, which has to be low vibrational because that's the frequency band they operate in.
Right. When you think about frequency in any way, you know that the higher the frequency, the low just doesn't resonate with it at all. It shatters glass. Like
exactly. And so these entities have created this, and it goes beyond these entities, actually. That's another story, another time. But they have created this quote matrix, this simulation, to manipulate events, perceptions of events, perceptions of experience, so that it generates this low vibrational energy, which they feed off. Now, what I realized in these sacrificial rituals, because you're asking the question, obviously, you've got to keep asking questions all the time, without any belief system to censor you. Oh, I can't go there. My belief system will be wrong if I go there. No, ask the question. These sacrifices to the gods. Okay, so what do the gods get out of it? And it's exactly what I'm describing. What's happening in these sacrificial rituals is they're designed purposely to build up maximum terror in the victim. And as this terror is generated by the victim, this very intense, powerful, low vibrational energy, these entities in the astral are feeding off that energy. Because if someone's having an emotional experience, an emotional reaction, or they're thinking something, you can see the body language, especially emotion. You can see the body language.
Some of us wear it on our face. Some of our energies are very strong, and it's very easy to sense. So absolutely, we can all relate to that.
But what you can't see are the frequencies coming off people, because that's an astral phenomenon. That's going into the astral, those low vibrational frequencies. And therefore, these entities, the gods in the astral, are feeding off this energy. And at the same time, when the terror reaches a certain level, a massive infusion of adrenaline goes into the blood. And these Satanists conducting the ritual in our reality then drink the blood. This is where adrenochrome, all this stuff comes from. Yeah.
And so it's usually with children, right?
Yeah, it's usually with children. I mean, when they talked about sacrificing young virgins to the gods, that's just code for children.
Why children?
Well, because there's when children go through puberty, we see that in this human reality as a chemical transition, a chemical transformation. We call it puberty. That chemical transformation, like everything in our human reality, is an expression of a vibrational transformation. And these entities want that energy before that transformation. I mean, of course, they can take energy from adults, of course, and they do. But I mean, that's the nectar to them. That's the ideal for them. That they want that prepubescent energy of children, and there's many other reasons for it as well, but that's one of them.
So I'm clear. So the sacrifice is to attract the God, the energy that they want to come into the space, and then the consumption of the blood, of the adrenochrome from the adrenaline going into the blood, is then what's consumed by the group that's there.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the difference. But they both are the result of terror, which they generate in the ritual.
Yeah.
And this is what I say to people. It's been very difficult to get over, and I don't understand it because most people don't come across this stuff in everyday life.
No.
But it's very difficult to get across to people the scale of pure evil that we're dealing with, and I call evil the absence of love. And these entities have no interest in love. It's not an energy that they can absorb because they're way out of the frequency of that. You have this matrix set up to generate this energy. That's why, look through human history. It's war and suffering, hunger, and oh dear.
I'm wondering how this makes them more powerful. How does this make those people more powerful?
Well, it empowers them energetically. What when I talked earlier about politics is about getting the collective humanity to give its power away to an individual or a few to dictate events for the next 4 years, 5 years in some countries. Well, it's the same thing. They are leeching, vampiring your energy, and it's empowering them. And then they recycle that back against you in terms of control and what they do. When I was looking at this simulated reality, obviously I wanted to know how it worked. What makes it easier to explain is that this incredible technological revolution, AI revolution that's going on, computer revolution, is actually technologically mimicking the very way we create the simulation and interact with it. So you've got the tools now. I mean, my heart goes out to the shamans of the past and people like that who may have got this stuff by their astral travels or whatever, and then trying to explain it to I mean, how do you explain this stuff to a culture that knows nothing about any of this stuff?
It's so true.
So what they were doing was using analogies that related to the culture of the time, and anthropologists and historians go along, and they then take it bloody literally and think that these people were primitive, but actually they were symbolically describing something which we now can very closely describe very accurately. So, okay, what the simulation is not a construct. It's an information field. It's akin to a Wi-Fi field. We interact with it through the human body, the biological computer, and we lock into it via the 5 senses. So if you look at a Wi-Fi field and a computer, the Wi-Fi field contains all the information. The computer locks in to that part of it that it is keyed to connect with, and then it decodes that information field into what we see on the screen. And what we see on the screen is absolutely nothing like that information in the Wi-Fi field, in the form it's in the Wi-Fi field.
Right.
It's been decoded.
Right.
And so when you say to people, tell me about the internet, and they say, well, it's videos and texts and stuff and all the rest of it. Well, yes, it is, but the only place it exists in that form is on the screen.
Oh yeah.
And
Think
then
about
you
a
are
telephone. It's not like the words are travel. I mean, you talk on a telephone, that's just vibration. It's just a
just
frequency.
vibration. It's vibration. Well, this is interesting. It's vibration that is turned into an electrical signal. Well, that is exactly what we're doing. If you look at a headset, a virtual reality headset, that's basically what the body is doing. The body is decoding the simulation. So if you go onto the internet and you look at these compilations of people who've put the headset on, and you see that their sense of reality is transformed almost immediately. They might be in an empty room, they might be in a room with a few friends, but it's a room they're used to.
Right.
And
Well, and it's a fully embodied experience. For me, it's when you have a fully embodied experience, whether it's through plant medicine or an emotion or something significant that happens in your life, fully embodied, you can't unknow it.
but if you look at what these headsets, if you look what they're doing, they're tapping into the five senses. They're tapping into the sight senses, the sound senses, and all that stuff. And they are overriding the normal reality that we would experience. And they're falling off their chairs, they're screaming, they're shouting, because their sense of reality has been overridden.
Sure. They have an emotion and they send the frequency. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, overridden in seconds. They can take the headset off and realize it's just a game. But if your headset, your decoding mechanism is your very biological computer body, then you can't take it off short of either dying, the body dying, not you, or projecting your consciousness into the astral. Otherwise, what's happening is your computer is decoding the Wi-Fi field, the simulation, into the reality that we think we're experiencing, which is nothing like what we're actually experiencing. So again, if you go back to that vibration electrical signal, if you look at what mainstream science talks about in terms of how the five senses work, they're picking up frequency information and they're turning it into electrical information, which they communicate to the brain, and the brain then forms it into what I say, and many others say who've studied this, into a digital holographic form, which is basically a 3D holographic version of a computer screen. And that's what we are experiencing as an external reality, when actually it's in here that it's going on. Just as if you look at a computer, you're observing the screen from outside, okay, but the decoding is going on inside. The reality actually is inside, and you're only seeing an external screen vision of it. What happens in what we call death is that the biological computer ceases to function. So as soon as you enter this reality, you are experiencing through the body decoding system is delivering to you a reality that is nothing like actually it really is within this band of frequency in terms of sight sense called visible light. And while you're in the body and you're going through life, it's continuing to deliver that reality, that simulation reality. Your parents have got headsets on, your teachers, your professors, your mates, the news readers, journalists, politicians, workmates, they've all got headsets on, and they're all decoding basically the same reality, basic reality. They perceive it in a different way, depending on them, but their basic reality is the same. And so everyone's confirming to everyone else that all this is real. And it's not. It's a decoded illusion, what I call an induced dream. And so when you leave, when your body ceases to function, death, it ceases to decode the simulation. At which point you find yourself in another reality. Why? Because your focus of attention hasn't moved. What we call death is only a transfer of attention. That's all it is of our consciousness. But then the next question I had was, okay, I can understand why consciousness might be tricked into this simulation once, but you've only got to travel around the world. I've been to 60 odd countries, not most of them in the last 35 years, but I can't go to many now because I'm banned from loads of them. But yeah, I'm banned from nearly 30 European countries and Australia, plus a lot more if I try to get in them. It must be something I'm saying. I do hope so. Funnily enough, all those people in the center of the big names in the alternative media, they can travel anywhere, and they're still on YouTube. And I was off YouTube in 2020 in April 2020 when I exposed the and what have you. So
the Epstein list is still clean. So
I must be saying something different to them to cause me to have all these deletions and bans when they don't have them. And we're getting into this whole arena now of what that information is.
Right.
So I traveled around the world, and the vast majority of people in this world are not having a good time. They're having a very bloody hard time. They're trying to survive another day. And so the question I had was, I can understand consciousness being tricked, manipulated into entering this reality. But why did they come back? Because by this time, it was obvious to me that reincarnation was real. I go into this in detail in the reveal. When you see the evidence of young kids who have described previous lives that they could never have known about, in locations they could never have known about, with people they could never have known about. And when they've
that's essentially the story of the Buddha too. That's how they find them.
But when they've been checked out, the stories, they've found to be incredibly accurate in detail.
Yeah.
There's a story that I tell in the reveal where there was a psychiatrist, an American Canadian psychiatrist called Ian Stevenson, who came across some of this stuff and then made it a life's work, basically. And he studied thousands and thousands of these reports, and then went and checked them out. And what he was trying to do was debunk them, not because he wanted to debunk them, but that was his focus. I'm going to do everything I can to debunk this, to see if it stands up to scrutiny. And he found extraordinary correlations between what small kids were saying about lives in locations they had no experience of whatsoever. There was one boy who said that he was married to this lady who was still alive in this other place. And so they went over to check all this out. And and he said the boy was talking to the quote former wife as if she was still his wife. And then the wife said, we never found your will. If you're who you say you are, we never found your will. Where's the will? And he went over to a floorboard in the kitchen and pointed at it, and they took the floorboard up, and there was the will. So there's so many of these stories. It's clear to me that reincarnation is real. Right. But what I didn't buy, what I didn't buy is, like I say, something you mentioned earlier, is that we come here to evolve and learn lessons. I think that's total tosh. Tell me what lessons the kids in Gaza are currently learning. It's ludicrous. I've been cut up by a serial killer, and I've been left in a fridge. It's a great lesson. I'm really fantastic. It's ludicrous. What all these things do is produce enormous, fantastic amounts of what Robert Monroe called loosh, i.e., this low vibrational, emotional, mental energy. That's what is happening all around us all the time, in conflict and war and suffering and bombing and hunger and desperation. And that's the reason to produce this bloody energy. It's not to evolve. I started looking at near-death experiences, and I've watched and read enormous numbers of these near-death experience accounts. And they are very, very common in theme. What I found interesting is talking to people who remember the incarnation process. And again, they're very common in what they say, who somehow have not had the mind wiped like everyone else does as part of coming into the matrix. Because when you come into this field, you have to have your mind wiped, because then you start with a blank sheet of paper. You're bloody clueless. You don't know who you are, where you are. That's the idea. Because if you were having life after life and you remembered it while you were experiencing a human life, you'd know what was bloody going on.
Right.
So one of the things that I found interesting is when people are talking about this astral dimension, they talk about it in like physical terms. It's not the dense physicality that we have, but it's a form of physicality. And also how the incarnation process is very technological. I go into this in the book and quote people who describe this. And one of them talks about how she remembers coming into this reality and passing through a electromagnetic field that was, as she entered, similar to what
I've heard about that, like the density of it, the coming down, the density of that, the physical experience of that.
Yeah, the density of this reality, the human reality, is described in terms of being almost impossible to experience.
Right. I've heard that too.
But also that this lady was talking about how she passed through this electromagnetic field that is designed to wipe your mind as you come in. It's like, remember those old tapes where you used to rub them over a electromagnetic magnet, and it would wipe them and you could use them again. That kind of principle. When people were talking about when they left the body in a near-death experience, they described how it was just amazing, like nothing they'd ever experienced before. Yeah. There was a bliss, a love I'd never experienced before. And you go, well, hold on a minute. You obviously believe in reincarnation. Oh, yeah. So why haven't you? What do you mean you've not experienced it before? You must have experienced it loads and loads of times. But because of the mind wipe, when you leave the body, that mind wipe is still in place. And they want you up this tunnel with a light at the end, or a light, or however it's symbolized. And of course, we are told in the world of human to relate the light to God. And so when we leave, you go to the light, and you're in the wheel of samsara, as the Buddhists talk about. The reincarnation cycle, and you come back here in another form with a different personality program, and the whole thing keeps happening. And for me, if we talk about what we can do about this, and this is the level we need to talk about, not whether Trump or Harris is going to be president, and you're going to have the hard sell or the soft sell to the same end. This is the key to human freedom, or consciousness freedom, in what we call human. For me, there's three levels that are very different. First of all, there's the human body, which allows us to interact with this dense human reality frequency band. Our consciousness is vibrating so fast that, if it was just consciousness and consciousness alone, I couldn't tap these keys, because they're different frequency. So we take on this outer shell of the same frequency band that we want to interact with, and then I can tap the keys. But my consciousness is what is experiencing that. So then you leave the body and you enter this astral realm. Now, this astral realm also requires an outer shell to interact with, so that the two can interact. And I say that's what we call the soul. And so this conspiratorial matrix group would like you just to believe that there's no life after death, and we're just a cosmic accident, and that's the end of it. That's what they'd like you to believe, ideally. But they know that most people won't. And so religion talks about a soul and what have you. And in many ways, that's preparing you for the wheel of samsara. So they're not really bothered if you believe you have a soul, because that's still in the matrix, because this astral level is part of this simulation. It's what people call the spirit world, or the afterlife and what have you, but it's still in the matrix. And I go into this in detail in the reveal. There's another level of self-identity. That's what it is, self-identity in the end, which is what I call spirit, where you identify with being pure consciousness, a state of being aware, pure awareness, no form, no body, no any of this stuff, but pure consciousness. And the difference between the frequency that you operate at in a human body that believes the five sense world is real, and the level that you experience at a soul level in the astral afterlife, and the frequency you operate at with a self-identity of being pure consciousness,
very different,
completely different.
Yeah.
First two frequencies will keep you in the matrix.
Right.
One will keep you here. One will keep you in the astral, so you come back here. The other will take you way out, and to hell with all this nonsense. It's over. I mentioned earlier that if you look back through history, there's a constant common theme where the many look to the few to tell them what to think and tell them what to do.
So common.
When if they just collectively refuse to do that, then the few have no power at all. But it's the same if you look at the dynamic between the human experience and the astral experience. They're the same in this sense. The astral is obviously a lot less dense. That's why it feels like heaven, a lot compared with this, but it's a lot less dense, yes. But the dynamic is the same. So most people in the human life are looking to authority to tell them what to think. They're looking to experts, doctors, scientists, tell me what to think.
Right.
And then when you leave the body, not least because this mind wipe is still in place, you listen to these near-death experiences, and when they leave the body, they find themselves with spirit guides or religious heroes. If you're Christian, you'll see Jesus. If you're a Muslim, you'll see some Islamic hero and what have you, and so on and so forth. You might see loved ones. I go into what they really are in the reveal, and basically, because you're in a state of confusion, mind wipe, you follow them. And one of the common themes of near-death experience accounts is the life review, where they say they watch their life played back to them, while elders, wise men with beards, and kind of went through their life with them.
Right.
And you hear near-death experiences all the time saying there's no judgment in the afterlife. Well, hold on a minute. I've been listening, reading to what you said happened, and they're bloody total judgment. What they do.
That's a different level, though. To me, that's a different level.
They're getting you to judge yourself. The point I'm making, however, is that as in the human body, people look to authority figures to tell them what to think and what to do and what to believe. In the astral, the same process goes on
a more tricky level, because it's with the shaman, or it's with your father, or with the loved one,
all that stuff. And I explain in the reveal how they do this. The whole simulation is run by AI, an AI on a level that is way beyond even what we see in the public arena today. And a lot of this astral AI is what's coming into the human frequency band and transforming it. and turning it into a complete AI control system.
Mm.
The point is, though, that you can get out of all this so long as you change your self-identity from the identities they give you. Here it's you're just a human, and you're the labels of a human life. That's who you are. And or you're subordinate to some judgmental God who loves you. Or in the astral, oh, well, you're here to learn lessons, and oh, yes, oh, you've got your karma, and oh, you're going to go back and pay back your karma, and all this stuff. It's nonsense. The thing is, it's not a little bit bloody nonsense. It's all nonsense. The whole thing is a bloody trick.
So what's the way out then?
And we have the capacity to leave the trap, so long as we leave the perceptual states that they infuse into us. And look at a maverick. What happens to mavericks in a human life? They are marginalized. They're strange. They're dangerous. They're ridiculed.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones that have started to see it. That's why they act differently to the program that everyone else acts out.
Right.
And the whole thing is to control perception. Absolutely, the stadium in which human control and astral control is played out is control of perception. Mm-hmm. And that we need to take it back, and we can. But if we, we've got to stop falling for belief systems.
Right. So what's your advice then for people to be able to have more autonomy of their reality and be able to shift their perception and have the opportunity to live a life that is not in that negative downward spiral of frequency where you're being siphoned by outside entities, but where you get over that hump where you start to spiral in a more positive, higher frequency direction? What is the first big step that everyone should take?
Well, I think there's one big step: self-identity. That's it. I've seen all the gurus and the New Age teachers and people like that, and a lot of them tend to complicate things and make it sound complicated. You go on a quest, or you do this, and you drink green tea. I've got I can't stand green tea, but I've got no problem with people to do that. Well, what I'm saying is it's much simpler than that. Self-identity. If you identify with the labels of a human life that are given to you, then you identify with limitation immediately. You're identifying with the realm of the five senses, the illusory physical, the holographic realm, in which virtually everything seems impossible because of the perceived physicality. If you perceive that you are still under the control of these afterlife entities helping you to evolve, well, you are identifying with another level of the trap. Sure. If you can do it in a human body, you can do it anytime, you can do it now if you want. You move your self-identity from the labels of a human life. You even move them from the idea of soul, the incarnate soul. And you start to, not conceptually, that's just an intellectual exercise. You perceive yourself to be, and the more you do that, the more it ingrains into you and integrates into you. You perceive yourself to be just consciousness, all consciousness, a unique expression of infinite possibility. That is pure consciousness, pure awareness. Yeah. Everything else is just an experience for that consciousness. It's not you. It's not real. It's what you're experiencing. And that takes you into what it does is it starts to remove you from the drama. Yeah. If you look at what keeps you in the matrix, yeah. It's drama.
So right. I mean, this is how I've always looked at politics. I'm like, oh, it's just like, get the popcorn and watch, man. It's just distraction. Or like you look at television at night and you see people standing on stage with ridiculous costumes on, and you're just like, oh my God, this is just a distraction.
That's exactly right. You know, what happens is instead of being an actor on the stage, you're in the audience just observing it.
Yeah.
You step back. It doesn't mean you don't do what you can. My goodness me, I can't be accused of not doing that. But you become the observer. And I'll finish on this. But you know, there's two types of dream, because I say this is an induced dream. There's two types of dream. There's the dream which you believe is real, and that pulls you in emotionally and mentally. You can wake up in a sweat and say about it. But there's another kind of dream. I call it lucid dream. Did they call it that? Where you know it's a dream. You're having a dream, but you know it's a dream, and you're observing the dream. You're not caught in it,
Yeah.
and you're not emotionally affected by it, and you're not mentally affected by it. You wake up, you say, "Oh, I've had a very vivid dream," which I knew was a dream when I was having it. And what happens is when you move out of this myopia of self-identity and this myopia of perceiving the world, and you start to expand your self-identity, then what you're doing as a matter of course is you are, as your self-identity expands, you're expanding deeper and deeper and deeper into this infinite realm of consciousness. So you're seeing things, you're understanding things, you're getting insights that you never were there.
Yeah, like with this tiny little focal point, you widen it out. I think that's incredible advice, and I think for myself, that's been one of the most helpful tools as well. And it's not because I set out to do that, but as a byproduct of work, I realized that I could get above the situation, almost like you become more seated in the consciousness as opposed to in like a non-player character, essentially, like in it. I call it in it. If you can just get above it and see it as just things happening, then you don't get the charge, and you don't send that energy charge off that they're looking for you to do with the drama and with everything that pulls you down. You're above it, your frequency stays high, and essentially you can then have an existence that feels much more peaceful.
Exactly. Years ago, when I was a journalist, I used to wake up in the morning and put the radio on, listen to what the latest news was, and I'd often fall back to sleep. And I would have vivid dreams.
Oh, yeah, because it's coming in.
And when I woke up, the vivid dream related to the story being run on the radio.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Right? Well, they there's programming. You're always awake. Yeah.
But the point is that was an induced dream. It was an induced dream, induced by information that I was getting.
Yeah, clean up your environment.
That's what the Matrix is. It's an induced dream. Yeah. And we don't have to believe it's real, because if we do, the Matrix has you.
That's right. Wow, David, thank you so much. You've been at this for so very long, as you say, 35 years, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm glad that over time, especially in the more recent handful of years, that people like you that have been brave and have stood the course are not looked at as being quite so crazy, but absolutely informational. And at the very least, just opening people's minds up to another way of thinking and how we just live to be happier. That's my ultimate goal. So thank you.
Thank you. And I would just say this to people finally. If a world that's utterly insane doesn't see you as crazy, it's time to ask why.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of crazy things that have happened lately, so appropriate to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.
Brilliant analysis, brilliant breakdown, and this is what you call unlocking the codes of the mind, and that's what David does best. And Danica Patrick also, brilliant beautiful soul, asking some good question and proper interview. She allowed David to speak, and that's what we all come here for, to listen to David speak. So it was a brilliant brilliant interview, people. I love this interview. Brilliant. One of the best interview. One of the best, and that's not exaggerating, but that's it. And that's the only thing I can say, people. This man just unlock the codes of your mind. And whoa, people need this, people. People need this message. People need this level of thinking, because it's kind of rare now, if you really be honest. Who's really doing this thinking and this deep level, people? Let's be honest. Not a lot of people. Not a lot of people. So I'm gonna leave it here, people, because there's a lot of noise in my background. And yeah, I don't want to drown out what I'm saying, but yeah, the noise kind of slow down. But this one is unlocking the codes of your mind, people, and wow, you just feel so good mentally listening these type of reasoning. Yeah, so beautiful interview, people. I can't wait for our next one with Danica Patrick. So more strength, more power. We'll go on, fight on.